Good evening, cocksuckers. I'm Circus here with a disturbing, low quality, and doomed to failure pilot of a YouTube series. You send me incredibly stupid questions, and I do my best to answer them using science, math, and information pulled solely out of my own ass. All questions will be considered, and I'll just make assumptions and approximations until the problem at hand is so badly altered that any results are meaningless. So comment a question below, or send me one privately, and I'll consider it. Since no one will ever watch this dumpster fire, nor should they, let alone respond, I'll make up the first few myself. So I joined one of those weird Facebook groups during the coffocalypse, and the premise of this group is that everyone just pretends to be an ant. It's like basically everyone just writes lift or bite or some shit like that in all caps. I couldn't really get into it, but maybe pretending to be a fucking insect or something provides a sense of camaraderie for people locked inside their apartments or something. Anyway, a bunch of the recent posts have revolved around figuring out how many ants it would take to lift something, or to fill up a trench coat, or something like that. And these are all pressing and important questions, but my immense and unending genius has come up with something even more vital to the progression of the human race. How many ants can we fit inside of an asshole? At first glance, this seems extremely stupid and unnecessary. Why would anyone jam ants up their poop chute? Two things. One, dumb questions are the point of this series. And two, consider the possibilities. You could receive a legendary prostate massage from the hundreds, if not thousands, of strong, tiny ant limbs crawling around the back of your GI tract. Additionally, you could tape up your anus and potentially store the ants for later. You could go into a restaurant, pull a few ants out of your ass and sprinkle them on your food, and voila, free Applebee's cum soup. Without further ado, let's get going. My production quality is a crime against God, as you've obviously seen already, so I'll go easy on the calculations from a visual perspective. I'll be doing all the math in MathCAD, and I'll walk you through my thoughts and assumptions and everything as we go. My sources are going to be shit. Basically, I'm just taking whatever sus website I can find that has a number I can use. This really isn't like a grade A academic production, so please spare me on sources and plagiarism and stuff like that, because it's just not going to be good. So let's start with our assumptions, because assumptions are really important. They're how we view the world through pattern recognition, and assuming shit is actually helpful 90+% of the time. You would be a schizophrenic train wreck if every new thing you encountered was completely foreign and novel to you. So with that in mind, let's start laying out our assumptions and seeing what we can and can't explain out of existence. Spoiler, we're going to explain everything out of existence. So assumption 1, we are only filling the ass up to the prostate, which is 5 centimeters past the sphincter. We are doing this for the massage, guys, so there's no point in fucking around with trying to fill all your guts with insects. We just need the first few inches. This gives us a way of approximating butthole volume as well, which will be completely and absolutely necessary moving forwards. Assumption 2, our ants are carpenter ants, 1 centimeter in length. Google says these little wood-munching assholes are like 0.5 to 2.5 cm in length, so let's just say 1 centimeter. We're using bigger ants because it's easier to picture/feel them in your head and ghost asshole, and also because 1 centimeter is a really nice length for our math, and I said so. Assumption 3, our ants are 0.3 centimeters wide. Look, I am really fucking lazy, guys. Look at the ant. It's about 3 times longer than it is wide or so. Maybe the legs make it like a little bit wider, but they can just tuck in really close if it starts getting tight. No one seems to give a damn about ant width, and this number is basically impossible to find, and we really need it to actually get our final answer. So we're just going to say it's 1/3 or 30% or so of the length. Now for our fourth assumption. We are going to assume that our ants can be modeled as cylinders. So I couldn't find the volume of a carpenter ant. You would probably have to put like 100 in like water and drown them and do like a water displacement average, and no one is paying for that research to exist. So we're just going to assume that they are all just cylinders, like an 8th grade math problem. And we already established our length and width, so figuring out the approximate volume per ant shouldn't be too challenging, although I will struggle with it. And this leads us into assumption 5. The human rectum is 4 centimeters in diameter, and it will not stretch or change width. So according to the internet, the anal cavity and the rectum are different, and I don't know, there's a lot of information about butts, and you get the picture. It's really complicated. And this part of your anatomy has a tendency, or at least the capacity, to stretch, and we're going to have to ignore that. And this is a really big thing to ignore, because your ass can stretch a lot. Definitely not speaking from personal experience or anything, but it can stretch a ton. So our number is definitely going to be off, but without it, it would be pretty hard to pin down a volume for the anal cavity in question. We're just going to assume this guy's got like a PVC tube for an ass, and no matter how many ants you put in it, it's not going to expand. Which is an unsettling thought, maybe, but one that we're going to need if this is going to make any sense at all. And this allows us to move on to our last assumption. I thought there was another picture coming, I'm sorry. We're only filling to the prostate. So the whole point of this is to see if all those BuzzFeed articles about a male G-spot are actually correct and live up to the hype. The prostate is apparently like 2 inches past your sphincter, so we're just going to use that as a distance we're trying to reach here. Without further ado, our calculations. So, MathCAD is sexually arousing, and for many good reasons. However, I will lay off that whole thing right now, because having an audible orgasm on your first upload is a little bit distasteful. But anyway, it's where I'll show my variables, my calculations, and all that good shit. Units will be multiplied onto the ends of the numbers, because that's the way the software works. So for this, we need a height and we need a radius. The height is the length, and the radius is half the width. Pretty simple. We'll keep the volume units in liters for now. My hardcore metric purist might be whimpering and begging for meters cubed at the moment, but you can suck a cock, because I do not want numbers with negative powers of 10 and the magnitude greater than my penis size. When we run those numbers, we get 7.09 times 10 to the negative 4th liters per ant, which is really small, kind of like an ant. So now we have to calculate the volume of the asshole. This is another cylinder calculation, and probably a more honest one. It's kind of like a cylinder. Problems become super easy once you simplify all the potential complications out of existence. Anything can be perfect if you just ignore all of its flaws, issues, imperfections, and heinous war crimes. Speaking of war crimes, our butt depth is in imperial units. Luckily, MathCAD genocides them and gives us meters again. We'll assume radius is half our width, and our distance to the prostate / butt length is our height. From this, we find our anal volume is 0.064 liters, which isn't a lot. That's like 64 milliliters, so you could fit like 2 shots of vodka up there maybe. Which isn't a bad idea for a video either, like seeing how much you could butt chug before you die. But not what we're on right now. So anyway, you run all those numbers and you can get the grand finale. How many ants? So this is actually really simple. We just called everything a fucking cylinder. So now we're going to put Einstein and Hawking to shame by performing a mystical operation known as division, or the old slice and dice. And at the end, there you have it. 901.11 carpenter ants can fit into the asshole of one unknown average person. I don't have a lot of assholes for reference, so that's how it is. Since decimals are fucking ugly and the number is already garbage, we're rounding it to just 900. So I hope you enjoyed this first episode of Only Stupid Questions, or I almost hope that you didn't enjoy it because it's pretty poor quality content. Anyway, if I get a good suggestion for another video, or if anyone bothers to watch this, I'd probably be willing to make another. I genuinely enjoy stupid thought experiments / Algebra 1 projects like this, because I am a complete fucking loser. I don't have a cringe catchphrase or anything, so we're just going to sit here and virtually stare at each other for a few seconds in the absence of an actual closing statement. Have a nice weekend or something, I guess. All right, bye.